Hi everyone, this is Brett from Link Digital, and I'm going to show you today how to install CKAN 2.10, which is the latest version of CKAN. It was out a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I'm going to install this on a brand new Ubuntu 22.04 virtual machine that I have running that I've only just created. And I'm going to be installing CKAN as Docker containers. I have another video of installing containers on a Mac OS server, which is my local machine, and but this one will be on a Ubuntu 22.04 virtual machine that is running on my Mac OS box. So let's get started and see how we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the instructions. I'm going to be just running them off the instructions that we have for installing CKAN. Now we go to the maintainers guide first, and there's a link through to installing CKAN. So we click that, and we have the three methods of installing CKAN. We have the package install and the source install, and we're going to be doing the Docker install. And we see that the instructions that I'm looking at are for CKAN 2.10. So let's go to the instructions, and we need to click on this link, which is for the configuration and setup for running CKAN. Now this will go to this new repo for CKAN Docker that has been made available for CKAN 2.10, and this is the new official repo for Docker, for installing Docker for CKAN. Okay, so the instructions, there are a set of instructions here. Now the first thing we need to do on Ubuntu is we need to install the Docker engine, and so I'll click through that, and I'll be following these instructions here. Okay, we see 22.04 as one of the distributions of Ubuntu that this works for. Okay, so the first thing we do is we want to run an apt-get update. Now, because this is a brand new Ubuntu virtual machine, this will take a little while. Everything will need to be installed. There's no preloading of anything on this, so I'm afraid it's going to be probably a little boring. There'll be a lot of waiting around, but I thought it was probably quite important to show that it can be done on a brand new virtual machine. Okay, so that's done. The next thing we do is we need to install these packages, system packages. Curl, CI certs, GNU, PG, and LSB release. So let's type yes to that. no, at the moment what we're doing is we're setting up the repository that's required, and then after that we do the actual Docker engine. Okay, that's done. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to add to the GPG key. So we create a directory here first called etc apt keyrings and set up the right permissions on that. And the next we get the key. And that key looks like it's there. Okay, the next thing, we need to set up the repo with this command. And that's done. Okay. Now the next part we do is we install the Docker engine and we do another apt-get update. Great, okay, now, okay, so we're going to be running or installing the latest Docker engine software and Containerd and Compose. So the next thing we do is we install these. Should I move myself out of the way here? Not sure why it's doing that. Just if that is copied. It is, okay. So let's install all these packages. System packages now. This will take a while, I think. Docker CE does take a while, which is the main domain sort of package for Docker. Let's move this. Maybe I can keep myself up here so you can kind of see a little better of the commands getting executed. The host machine is a Mac OS. It's running Big Sur, which I can't remember the exact number, macOS number it is, might be 11 actually. But it's a 2018 Mac Mini, and so it's not a latest machine at all. It can be a little slow. The actual internet, I'm actually doing this in New Zealand. I'm over here visiting my dad at the moment, and the internet here is quite a lot slower than what it is in Berlin, which is where I normally live. And so that's another kind of reason why things will take a little long in this video, is the internet connection is just a little slow here, a little slower than normal. Or maybe that's normal for you, I don't know. But it's a little bit slower. Lots of screen watching in this video. Okay, that wasn't too bad. That's finished now. So actually that was really fast. That was a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so all the system packages are installed now. That was fine. Now what we'll do now is we actually just verify that it's installed okay by downloading. We don't have the image locally, so which is the Hello World image latest tag. So it's going to pull that out of Docker Hub and it's going to run it. There it is. That's very quick. So hello from Docker, and it just lets you know that it looks like everything is installed okay, and that's the last thing you need to do to get Docker installed on the virtual machine, on the Ubuntu virtual machine. So the next, I'm happy with that's working. The next thing we do is I have set myself up with a user here, Brett, and I'm going to just now download the repo, the CKAN Docker repo software by git cloning it, and that will clone into a brand new CKAN-Docker directory. So we go into CKAN Docker. Now the first thing we do is we want to copy the .env.example file, and we want to copy that into a file called .env, and that will be, we'll take a look at that. That is all the configuration parameters and values that we use by default. Now all these can change if you like when you start working with these Docker installations. There's probably, you'd be probably wanting to do something different at some point, and a lot of the parameters will need to change here, but this will get us going to start off with. So that's set up now. Now the next thing we do is we want to run docker compose build, and that will build some images for us. Now Docker I remember, or I don't know if you remember, but Docker Compose Docker compose command was a little different, and before it was docker dash compose. Now the compose part is just a plugin to Docker, whereas before it was a kind of different executable that you would run. So Docker compose now is sort of built into all the Docker runtime stuff, and so all the instructions now that we will have will be Docker space compose rather than Docker dash compose. So what we need to do is we need to run the commands because the Docker engine is running as the super user. We need to run all our commands using sudo. Now, this will take a little while. Oh, I said that last time, didn't I? But yeah, I think it will. This and the next command we run is actually Docker compose up, where it actually builds and runs the rest of the images and runs the containers from those images, and that will take a while too. So we'll just watch it and make sure that it doesn't error, and hope for the best. If we go back to the repo, and I'll just show you a couple of things while we wait. The Docker compose file, the YAML file that we're using for this video is this one. And if we look at the YAML file, we see all the services that will start containers. There's an Nginx one, which depends on CKAN to be running, so that's going to be the last one that will come up. CKAN, the CKAN container will depend on the database Solr and Redis to be up and running before that will start up. There's a data pusher in there as well that runs separately in its own container. The database itself, which is a Postgres database. We have Solr, and we're accessing new Solr images that are being designed and built specifically for CKAN, and they will be a Solr 8 system running, and our old Redis system, our old Redis container that we use as well. So this is what we're doing. We're basically running through this YAML file, this compose YAML file, and building everything from here. There's also a development alongside a development way of doing things is also. It's quite similar, but it allows you to be able to build extensions and get extensions up and running a little quicker. It's just sort of set up for kind of more development side of CKAN. And there's a section in the documentation about development. It's here. See, we have development mode, and it makes it easier for actual code changes. Okay, let's go back to our screen and see what's happening. We also have a new repo for the official Docker images, if you're interested. These images are built using this repo and pushed onto Docker Hub, which they are used as base images for the CKAN-Docker repo. But this, if you're interested, you can go in and you can take a look at how the base images are actually created. So it picks up an Alpine, installs all the system software, gets hold of the correct version of CKAN, and runs a whole lot of other things to get it up and running. So if you're interested in seeing how these images are put together, then you can come and take a look at this repo here. So that's the CKAN-Docker-base repo. Okay, it's done. Now, the next thing we do is we want to run the Docker Compose up, and that will pull down some more images, and it will run the containers, all of the containers, in the correct sequence. Remember how CKAN needs to wait until 3 other containers are up and running before it will start, and Nginx will need to wait until the CKAN container is up and running before it will start all its initialization and all it needs to do to get up and running as well. So this this will probably take the longest, the step. But all of this really depends on the network. The network's normally quite good in the morning here, so I'm actually, it's only just ticked over to the afternoon here in New Zealand, so hopefully this is an okay time. What I might do is I might get another shell onto this virtual machine, because I'm going to run some Docker commands. Everything needs to be running a sudo, doesn't it? Sudo docker and look at the images. Okay, so we're looking at the images as they get created in the other screen. We have Nginx, we have CKAN, the database, and of course we've got the Hello World image that we ran before. And we see that the only container that is actually running, well, not running actually, it's not running, is it? It's exited. That's the status here. But the ls-a command just gives you all the containers, whether or not they were running, whether or not they are running or they're not running. But we see only, so there's no containers that are running at the moment, but hopefully soon. We see Redis is running now. Oh, sorry, not running. The Redis image is available now. You see how the Redis image has finished being pulled down. Data pusher and the Solar are the last ones, I think, the last images to be pulled down. I think Solar's quite large. There we go. Oh, here we go. So all the images are now pulled down, and we've created the network, the CKAN Docker underscore default network, and we are starting to create start all of the containers. Now, one of the things I really like is how the containers on the left-hand side of the screen are different colors. So this is the log information for all the containers as they're actually running, and we can see really quickly what containers have what log output. So you can kind of see quite quickly what's happening. And of course CKAN won't start until the database Solr and Redis are up and running. So Solr does take a little while for it to initialize everything and come up. I think it's running a JVM within the container. And of course the last container that we'll see will be the Nginx reverse proxy container starting up. Okay, so looks like CKAN has started. If we go back to our other screen, let's look at all the images will be there now, but also some of the containers will start. We should see some containers up and running. Here we go. So, okay, so CKAN says that it's up, but it's still initializing. Well, there's the status here. It says it's starting. So the other containers, the database, Solr, Redis, and the data pusher container are all up and healthy. That's good. Let's look at the screen that shows us all the log information to see what's happening. So the database is sort of getting initialized now from CKAN. So we're getting log information from the database container, the DB container. Still starting. So CKAN still starting. Oops. we're creating the user CKAN _admin. You see that in the log file? Or yeah. So we must be getting very close now for CKAN, the container, to be finished, starting. We're running the pre-run script, we'll see here. Okay, so I think CKAN is pretty much running now. We'll go back and look at the container output, and we should see it actually running. Here we go. Oh no, it's still starting. Okay. I thought it'd be finished by now. Must be pretty close though. Oh, it's still starting. Yeah, it is. Still starting. Okay. Oh, okay. It says the container's unhealthy. I wonder what happened. What I might do is I might when this happens, we normally take all of the containers down and then redo them. Not sure. There might have been, it could be something to do with the resources on the virtual machine. So what I'll do now is I'll stop all these containers and I'll start them back up, which they'll be a lot faster in coming up, because a lot of all the images are already downloaded, etc., etc. So we'll see what happens now. Maybe it was a little too much for the virtual machine. All right, we'll have a look. Okay, looks like the normal containers that they start pretty quickly. They're all up and running okay. See what happens with CKAN. Now, I'm pretty sure it's got something to do with the resources for the virtual machine. Maybe not quite enough for a kind of a stable start for CKAN at least. I think it's pretty resource intensive, starting everything up for the first time. But we'll see what happens again. CKAN hasn't started yet. Solar is up and solar starting. See, we see the starting status line for solar, and we see the image is a specific solar image for CKAN. It's that's the tag of it, 2.9-solar 8, which is what we're using. Okay, so solar's up and healthy now. Now that CKAN is on its way up now, and it's been starting for 22 seconds. Let's go and have a look and see what it looks like. Hopefully this time it'll start. Yeah, it's quite a lot, using quite a lot of CPU, isn't it? Okay. Three minutes. Now this is where it had problems last time, didn't it? Kind of close to here. Still. Still coming up. Three minutes. Just checking the CKAN health. Still starting. See, there's a write error here. Okay. Maybe there is a problem with with the resources, and it has a problem writing something somewhere. But I think the status is probably still okay. Yeah, it's still starting. Can you hear that plane? Okay, so it looks like CKAN must be running okay because Nginx, here we go. So CKAN took 5 minutes to come up, and this time it's healthy. That OS write, probably okay. It's probably going to be fine from now on. I think it might be the resources that we have on that virtual machine. Anyway, I'm happy things look good. Nginx is the last container to come up. Now I'll just run a wget. I think wget's on here. So to localhost port 8443, and we'll see what comes up. There's we'll try no check certificate because I'm accessing the SSL port. Okay, so that looks good. I think we are. Here's the index.html that came back with that wget command, and it looks pretty good to me. So there you have it. There's CKAN 2.10 running as Docker containers. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.